Hey everyone, it's Lisa. Thanks for joining me today. Welcome to my sewing lair. What's on the board? Well, this is the project that I started probably over a year ago, and I wanted to do a couple of things. Thing number one, I wanted to use up some scraps from a quilt that I made for my stepmother, and they were all in warm pinky orange tones. And I also had some fabric, which you see is the pink polka dots, and then has some orange and purple and blue and red tones in it, in addition to being a pink background. And I wanted to really learn two techniques. The techniques for the foundation paper piecing, which is the economy block, and this is a 3-inch finished block, as well as the triangle and a square. That's also known as a V block. It's also known as Peaky and Spike. The V block, a triangle and square, has a very definite angle to it, and I can't remember what it is. It's either 53.5 or 57.5. I can't remember which it is. It's not a 60-degree triangle. It's not a 45-degree angle, so you must have a ruler or mark a ruler, which is hard to do. It's best to have a ruler that does that for you, and they're not very expensive. The Tri-Rex tool will do that for you. Deb Tucker's V-Block will do it for you, and I'm sure that Creative Grids has one as well. I actually have both the Tri-Rex and Deb Tucker's tool, and frankly I use the two together because I kind of created my own construction method for the triangle and a square block, and I did that because I was making so freaking many of these. I figured out a way to do it very quickly, and I have a video on that if I can remember, I'll link it up, and I'll look at the quality of the video, and maybe I'll have to make a new one. So the lesson is to get better at quilting, and I try to get better. And this is, you have to kind of immerse yourself. So this project here was simply an immersion into economy block, foundation paper piecing, and V blocks, or triangle and square blocks. You know, I didn't need immersive learnings in how to cut a square, but frankly I did need that when I first started out. So I can cut squares very accurately, and on a pattern like this, you know, accuracy does matter. This pattern, I just concocted it. I just, you know, put it together, so it's nobody's pattern, but it does have a certain elegance in it, in that, you know, depending on what you look at, you have a different configuration of a star. So I really do like that. The other thing, now, as I put it together, I realized that if I'd done my color values differently, I would have had a vastly different quilt. You may not be able to see it with my color choices because the color value that I chose for the dark squares is probably too dark. If I had flipped the pink for the red, you would probably see the movement, and it basically looks like circles with points in the pattern. So I'm going to probably lay this out on EQ8 and experiment with some color values on it. I will say that when you have 3-inch blocks, and that's the largest unit you have, that's a lot of things that you're putting together. But I'm really pretty pleased with how it turned out. I accomplished exactly what I wanted to. I ended up with a usable project. I perfected my understanding of, my construction of the V block, as well as the economy block. And when I do these things, certainly, you know, YouTube is how I learned how to quilt, but I also realized that I've got a brain, and you've got a brain too. So when you're doing things and immersing yourself into a particular project, be mindful of ways that you can change your work processes or your construction processes to, go better, faster. My two takeaway learnings from this project was on the economy block. I hate wasting fabric, and so many foundation paper piecing videos that I saw. It's just an incredible waste of fabric. Well, yeah, you have triangles. You have two round robins of triangles surrounding a square in this particular block. Well, you can calculate that square and basically cut from a much smaller piece, cut it on the right straight of grain. I use my folded corner clipper to to make those cuts, so I am not wasting any fabric. The other thing that I do is when I'm using my folded corner clipper and doing something when I have to do so many pieces, is I calculate the rectangle that I need so that I am placing my ruler one time and getting exactly what I need from that one clip. That includes the seam allowance, and I have a video where I've demonstrated that. So I do that not only for the folded corner clipper, but I also do it for the V blocks. So when I'm cutting those many white pieces, I calculated what I needed to cut from a rectangle so that I only place my ruler one time. And when you're not twisting your ruler up and down to cut these things, number one, you get greater accuracy, and number two, you get greater productivity, both things that are important when you're undertaking a project like this. So this is my byproduct of my immersion into those two blocks. And the other learning that I came away with is my color value selection sucked. But I really didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was just using the fabric that I had. But again, when you take a step back, it's like, okay, this is what I could have done a little bit differently. So anyway, I hope that you're working on something that's fun and brings you joy, or at least gets it out of your psyche, onto your design board and out the door into some appreciative person's hands. So thanks again for joining me. Join me again and see what else is on the design board and how I'm making my layer much less layer-like. Bye.